everybody, I'm Corinne Blackstone and welcome to my craft room. In today's tutorial, I'm going to show you how to make this 4-foot tall, larger than matte project. This is really fun. I'm going to share some little tips and tricks that I use to help myself line these up and hopefully will help you line them up because this had a ton of pieces. Since it's such a big project, they're going to have a lot of pieces. Plus all these little pink parts were all basically individual pieces. Now, before we get started, be sure that you're subscribed here on YouTube. That way you don't miss out on any of the fun, crafty content we have coming. And I'm gonna link everything that I used in this video down below so that you can make your own larger than matte project. Without further ado, let's get started. I wanna show you all how to use a design like this one that is a lot of pieces and create these larger than matte designs and some quick tricks and hacks that are gonna help you put this together a lot easier. Now, the first thing that I'm going to do is select the whole design and I'm actually going to flip it. And you'll understand why we do that in just a minute, but we flip it because we're going to do something to make it a little bit easier. Now, I am going to pull it apart. I don't need this outline for any reason. We won't be using that. Now, I also know that this looks a little bit funny right now. It's because we flipped it and not everything always like lines back up perfectly when you flip it, but don't worry. It's completely fine. It doesn't matter that it's not perfectly lined up. I can like scooch things around, but it, again, does not matter. But you get the general idea. It will line up once we flip it the other direction. So the first thing that I want to do is I'm going to select all the parts of my design here and I'm going to resize them so that they're as big as we want. Now I want to make my castle about 48 inches tall, so we're going to go about 4 feet tall, and you can see that it gets really big. So I'm going to zoom out, and I usually zoom out about 25%, and that's plenty of space to see our design. Now, what's really fun about this is that we can really work with this in a couple of different ways. We can use things like slice, but we can also use contour, which I think helps a lot. Now, another little quick thing that I want you to note is that we have a lot of the same shape, but they're also slightly different. So when we're doing this, we're actually going to be numbering our items so that it's easier for us to put this all together when we pull everything apart. Now there's certain things that won't need numbered, like the ones that look nothing like anything else, like these big, tall, archy ones, but I am going to number all of the little triangles. I don't think I need to number this or that because those are basically the same pieces as well. But I'm going to show you how we do it really, really easily, and it's super duper fun. So the first thing that I want to do is I'm going to take this blue design. We're going to start with this. So I'm going to go ahead and hide all the other parts of our castle just so we're not staring at so many things on the screen. Now I need to duplicate this design, so I'm going to duplicate it. Now what I want to do is I want to move one of them out of the way because we always want one that's totally intact and full. That way we don't like mess anything up. Now with this one, I'm just going to keep this top piece. So I'm going to start with that. What I want to do is go to contour and I'm going to remove any other piece that isn't this top piece just by clicking and getting rid of them. Now, like I said, we don't need to number this piece because it looks the same, and I'm going to slide this one over. Now I again want to duplicate. I'm going to move this over, and then this time I'm going to keep this unique looking piece. So I'm just going to go to contour and again remove anything that isn't that unique looking triangular. I call it an A without the middle. Now we have that piece. Now what I like to do is I just kind of stack them so they're kind of out of the way. Again, we're going to duplicate, and then this time we'll keep one of these bottom pieces. We'll keep this guy. Now this does take a while, so I'm going to go ahead and contour out all of these parts. Now, like I said, if you're going to be doing this, this does take a while, I will admit, and that's completely like normal that it would take a while because this is something that is going to be a large item. Now we've got this unique little bottom piece, so I'm going to keep one of these two pieces and duplicate, and we'll do that. So let me go get those other two pieces separated, and then I'll show you how we're going to do our triangles. Now we're on to our triangles. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate this, and I'm going to start with the triangle furthest to this side. But one thing I want you to note is that when you come up to this, Do you notice that it's not mirrored? It's a weird thing that Design Space does. Don't know why. But I'm going to keep this triangle over here. So I'm just going to get rid of all of these other triangles. And I'm just going to keep the one furthest to the right. Now, before I do anything else, I'm going to open up a text box. I'm going to put the number 1 in, and I'm going to change this style I'm going to change the operation from basic cut to pen. Now, it is really hard to see this, and I'm going to zoom in so that we can resize this 1 because it's really, really small. Now I'm going to go ahead and zoom back out. Sorry, I know you have to zoom in and out a couple times to do this, but it's worth it. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this and paste it. That way I have a number, and I can do this a couple times. I can paste a few of them because we're going to need quite a few of these little numbers. Take one of your numbers, and you want it to be the number 1, and you're going to put it on to your triangle so that it fits within the triangle. Select the triangle and the number, and you're going to attach them. That's going to hold the number onto the triangle, and it's going to make it easier for us when we go to put this all together to know which triangle that is. Because like I said, we've got a bunch that all look very, very similar. So it's this triangle here. Now I'm going to go ahead and do that for each of these, changing the numbers as I go. So like 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So we'll have 8 different triangles. So I'm going to go ahead and do that really quickly here, and then I'll show you how to do the other parts because they're going to be the same way.
Don't wanna grow another day. Run around.
Now that you've gotten all that, all your blue pieces are done, which I know seems like quite the task, but this is going to be a lot easier when you go to put everything together. And also right now, if we click the make button, I'll show you what it looks like, because it's actually going to save you a lot more paper doing it this way too. So you can see that I can fit quite a bit, and honestly, if I really want to be picky, I can fit more because I can slide this into this space. I can usually slide like this type of stuff up, so you can really fit a lot onto one single sheet of paper, because now we have all of this, and I could move all of that to the like another sheet. So there's ways to save paper when you're doing this, but that's one way there. Now before I move on, I am going to click save, and I'm going to save this as Diz Castle. No, I spelled like that. I'm not. That way I've done all that work and I don't lose out on the work that I've just done. Now I am going to grab all this blue stuff. I'm going to go ahead and group it just to make it easier to hide, because now I want to move on to our next piece, which is our gold. Now the gold is a lot easier because none of those pieces look the same except maybe like these little guys, but we'll be able to figure those out. So rather than contouring with this one, you can actually use slice as well. Remember I said there's a couple ways to do this. So I'm just going to grab a shape, and then all I'm simply going to do is make it as big as like the piece there at the top, select both items, and click slice. Now I'm going to leave my shapes open because I'm going to be using them a couple of times. So now we've got this guy sliced. I'll move him to the side. Again, it doesn't matter what shape you choose, just choose one that you can kind of fit over the shape you're trying to slice out. Grab the shape and the gold pieces, and then you can delete all the gray and keep the gold. Now you can do this again with any shape that you want to, whatever shape's going to fit for your piece. So I'll just do this one and slice. But again, you can use contour as well. I just think if the pieces are far enough apart, slicing works really, really well. So I'm going to go ahead and slice out the rest of these couple of pieces, and then we'll move on to our next design. There's two ways to do that. Now, our next piece here is this bunch of pink designs. So this is pretty big. I'm going to zoom out a little bit on this one. Now, this one, I do think for the most part, we'll be able to tell which pieces go where. So we should be fine to not have to number them. But there are some like blocks here that I think we'll struggle a little with, but it'll be okay. A lot of them are pretty much the same shape, so we should be fine to do it however you want to do it. Now with this one, I think all the pieces will fit because there are so many small pieces. We should have no problem getting them all to fit within the size of our paper, so we'll be okay. Now what I am going to do with this one, I think we are going to go ahead and use contour just to make life easier. So again, what I will do is duplicate, and for this I'm just going to start at the very top. So I'm going to keep this little guy right up here, and I'm just going to get rid of all of the other pieces that are not that very, very top piece. Now you could always use slice if you wanted to like not have to constantly contour. You could keep a couple of the small pieces down at the bottom and slice them apart, but I think for this one, contour is just going to be the way to go. So all I'm doing is just clicking each piece that I don't want to currently keep, and we're good, and we should just have our top piece all by itself. So that's all we need to do. We're just going to go all the way down the castle and around it and get rid of all the pieces. You don't need to watch me do that, so I'm going to put it in super speed.
Don't wanna grow another day. Now I miss you and I want you.
All right, we've got all the pink done, which was a lot of pieces, right? So what I'm going to do is select all of this. I'm going to go ahead and group this again and hide it, because now we're going to bring in the background, which is the large black piece that we need to work with. Now, this black piece is quite large and it is a solid piece, which means we will need to be using our slice option. Now, I am going to change the color of this just because we are going to put numbers on it, so it'll be easier for us to see what we're doing. And I'm going to open up a square, and we're going to be using the same square over and over. So this square here, I'm going to make it 11.5, which is our max cutting size for the machine that we're using. And I'm going to use this square to like slice apart my castle. So I'm going to duplicate my square a whole bunch of times because we're going to need a lot of them, and I'd rather just duplicate them than have to keep making a new one. Now it's really up to you where you start with your slicing. Do whatever you want to do. But what I like to do is I kind of start in the bottom section. And then what I want to do is I want to make sure that when I'm slicing this, that I'm not leaving really thin spaces. So like with this archway, I wouldn't want to slice it right here because that leaves a really thin line. I would want to slice it more like this, where I'm not leaving such small spaces. So that's something just to be aware of when you're slicing out your castle. So I'm going to go ahead and start slicing. I'm going to slice in this bottom corner first. I'm going to click slice, and then I'm going to delete all of the gray stuff. Now you can add your number here. You're going to add your text. And again, I'm just going to do numbers. Doesn't have to be anything crazy. I'm going to go ahead and grab this really quick. This silly little number is always so hard to see. So this is going to be number 1, and I'm going to change this from basic cut to draw. And again, I'm going to do a couple duplications, and by a couple I mean like a whole bunch. I'm sorry if you can hear my dog walking around in the background. It's almost her breakfast time. I'm going to just move a couple of these so they're out of the way because they're going to get annoying in the way. They can just be piled on top of each other. It doesn't matter. Then I'm going to put my number on my castle, and I'm going to select it and attach. Now remember, these numbers will be written on the back, so nobody's going to see them. So I'm going to go ahead and slide this over, and I'm going to go ahead and continue to slice my design. Now again, slice it however you want to. It's up to you. Do whatever you want. Take your time. Do whatever order. It doesn't matter, just so long as you're happy with it and it's easy for you to put back together. So again, I'm just going to number these, and this one's will have to be smaller. And I just put the number onto my piece. Now, if it goes behind it, that's okay. Right click on this, send this to the back, and then attach. Now I'm going to go ahead and finish up the rest of our castle pieces because it's all the same thing just over and over again. It's just a lot of slicing of pieces and putting numbers on them.
Don't wanna grow another day.
I do have one piece here with the castle that's going to be a little bit too tall, and it's this single piece right here. So all I'm going to do is just slice it in half by using a shape. It doesn't, again, matter what shape you use. And I'm just going to make this shape large enough to kind of slice this piece in half. It's just a little bit too long, so we have to kind of adjust, but that's okay. That's part of making larger than matte projects, is you may have some pieces that might be too tall. So everything else should fit. So now I'm going to go ahead and again click save on this. And when I click the make, it's going to show me all of my mats. Now it'll let you know if you have too big of a piece, because it'll ask you like if you want to cut it on mat. So I think I still have one that might be a little too big. So I'm going to tell it on mat, and I'm going to see which piece is still a little bit too big. It's this one right here. I think is going to be too big for our mat. So I'm going to go ahead, hit cancel again. And again, this is just the nature of working with doing these larger than mat pieces. So you can see this piece, he's a little long at 12.8. So we'll do the same thing. I'm going to just slice him using a square, and I'm going to just slice him just above where that other piece is, where that little piece is, so I don't have to take that apart. And again, slice. So this is a lot of pieces, and that's just how it is when you do these types of projects. Now again, an easy way to check if they're too big is to just click the make button and see if it tells you that it needs to use a larger mat. I have a feeling it's still going to tell me. I think I have one more piece that might be too big, but we'll see. I don't actually, which is great, but I'm going to show you, see this big empty space? I might be able to fit something in there. I'll look around, I'll move some stuff if I can, but like this one is all kind of all its pieces. I could move this inside of there, so I could go to move object, and then I can select the first mat, which is where that piece was, and I'll be able to put this inside of there, and I can probably put like this over there. It's just things that'll save you a little bit of space. It doesn't matter if you don't want to do it, you don't have to. But I've got 7 pink pages. I only have 1 gold, which is great. I'm actually probably going to end up doing this one on actual gold paper, which I have an 8.5 by 11. And then we have all of our yellows. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So I'm going to need 11 pieces of black cardstock. Because remember, the yellow is the black background. And then I only need 2 of this blue, so we're good. We've got lots to work with here. We just need a lot of paper, and that's just how it is when you work with a larger than mat project. Now I'm gonna go ahead and cut all of this on the medium cardstock setting. I'm gonna show you how we load our pen, because we will need our pen so that it can draw on our different materials. And then with the black ones, we'll be using a silver pen, so I'll probably just keep the silver in for the blue as well. So let's head over to the machine and get started. We're ready to cut out our larger than mat project. So I have all of my sheets kind of set out so that I know what order to cut them in, and then also how many I need of each, but I will be double checking as I'm kind of cutting these out. I have multiple mats that I'm going to load so that I can just load and load and load. Now, I don't think you need to watch me cut all these, but I'll show you a couple of them being cut. I'm gonna, like I said, load all the sheets and get cutting, and then I'm gonna show you how to assemble this. It's really, really easy. When we get to the pen part, I will also show you that.
Fall in love with the rest unsung. Please hold my hand.
Now that we're moving on to the black, we need our pen so that we can write the numbers on it. So I'm just using a silver pen from Cricut. All I'm going to do is open clamp B, drop the pen in until it clicks, and then close that. And then before it cuts, it'll write out the numbers, and then it'll cut.
To prom, and we can stay forever young.
Now that we've cut out all our pieces, you can see I've got my computer over here. This has the image that we took apart on it so that I'm able to put this together by using the little codes that we use with our numbers and our letters. So the first thing I'm going to do, I want to start with the bottom of it. So I'm just going to find, I need pieces 1, 6, 8, and 7. So I'm just going to find those. Now this is 9, not 6. I should have put a little line under it, but that's okay. So here's 6. I need 7, and the last piece I need is little 8. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to slide these kind of over somewhere else so that they're out of my way, because this is really big, so it's going to take up a lot of space when we build this. So you're really not going to be able to see me piecing it all together, but it is pretty easy to do. So the first thing that we'll do is the bottom, and I'm going to start with 1 and 6. 8 and 7, I'll just slide over to the side. Now I'm just gonna use some plain old Scotch tape, nothing fancy. And since we're doing this on the back, we don't have to worry about the tape being seen. First thing I want to do is I want to line these up, and I want to make sure that the bottom is lined up really nice and neatly. And then I'm going to place a piece of tape onto our paper. I want to make sure that these seams are touching. They're really, really tight together. And then I just put another piece of tape just up here just to hold it. We'll use a little bit less tape as we kind of move through this, but you'll see that I want to make sure all of my seams are taped together really well. Now I've got the 8 arch here. The arch is a little tighter to like fit together. You just want to make sure that you kind of get the seaming on the arch exactly where you want it. I think that's good. I'm going to put a piece of tape right there along that arch edge, and then I'm going to add one up here at the top. And I do this just to hold it together. You'll see that we'll add a little bit more tape, you know, kind of to the seaming. And then we're going to do number 7, which is the last piece of our base. And we're going to go ahead and do the same thing. I'm going to line up the base here, the bottom, get it nice and tight and lined up, and then tape it together. Now, like I said, there's a reason we do the back. A, so we can write the letters on it, and then B, so nobody sees all the ugly tape that's holding it together. But it's really important that you have that so that it doesn't kind of come apart. So this is the bottom of our castle. It's pretty big. Like I said, this is a big castle. So our next line is 2 and 9, and then some of the non-numbered pieces. So I'm going to go and find my 2 and my 9. So I got my 2. And I know my 9 should be right here as well. So there's 2 and 9. Now these pieces fit towards this side here. You can see that like we've got this little chunk that fits in between all of these 3 pieces, and then the 9 sits right next to it. Sorry, my computer went black. So this is kind of how these pieces fit together, but I'm going to start with the 2. And what's great is since it fits directly into this little slot here, it should be easy to line up. Now I'm going to put a piece of tape across that so I can make sure that that holds together. And then I want to put another piece over here on this edge. And when you're taping this, any of the like really far out edges are where you want to make sure you put some tape. And we can always add some to the center if we feel like that's kind of a big gap. You can always put a little extra. So what I'm going to do, since you kind of saw me put this part together, I'm going to finish the base, and then we'll move on to our next pieces.
Now I miss you, and I want you to be there again, and we can stay forever young.
We're ready to put the pink pieces on, and this thing is giant. Like I've said, it's like 4 feet tall. So I am going to end up bumping you a little bit here and there because I do have cords that run from the camera to like electrical and stuff. So I'm going to do my best not to bump you too much, but it is probably going to bump you because this is really big. So I have all my pink pieces, and I did add numbers to them just so it was easier for me to line them up. And then I do over in the corner here have my computer, which I'm going to slide away a little bit, it's just in the way. And that has all of the pictures on it that I need so that I can line this up correctly. So it's technically backwards on the computer, but I'm able to just sort of make it make sense, hopefully, because obviously I had to write the numbers on the back. So this number 1 piece goes over here on this section of the castle. So like I'll just have to flip them over, but it's really easy. It's basically like putting together a puzzle, but with like actually somewhat of a guide. So like this 5 piece goes over here. Now for now, I'm going to flip this way just so I can see what number I'm looking at. Cause like this 7 piece goes here. So that one's actually in the correct spot. 3 is the piece that goes right here next to the wall. So I'm going to lay these all out first, or at least the bottom section. And then once I've laid out the bottom section here where I can like, you know, tape it on, I'll show you how I tape on the pieces. I just use the double-sided tape, works really, really well. But like I said, I want to get like this bottom section first put together, and then I can work on my way up to the top section. So now that I've got most of this base laid out, this is not, like I said, this is not the easiest one to put together, but it'll look good once it's done. I'm gonna take the double-sided tape roller and I'm just gonna roll it down the design here, the piece of cardstock, and then I'm gonna line this up onto my page. Now I would recommend starting at an edge and working your way over, but do whatever works best for you. Whatever is the right way for you to do it that makes you happy is the right way to do it. I think actually my tape might be empty, which is frustrating. And sometimes our tape runners run out of tape, so I'm gonna use the double-sided tape. This is just from Target. Works fine. It just might take slightly longer. But that is the nature of crafting. Sometimes you run out of supplies and you can't run out and get any. So double-sided tape it is. So all I'm going to do is just tape this down where they go. You don't have to be perfect. It's not going to be super noticeable if it's not like 100% exactly right. And like I said, this castle can be a little difficult just because these pieces are so big and there are spaces between the pieces. So lining them up perfectly can be a little difficult, but just take your time, have fun with it. If it's not perfect, nobody's gonna notice. They're just gonna think, wow, what a cool castle. So I'm gonna go ahead and get all the pink stuff taped on. I don't think that you guys really need to watch me put every single piece on this castle. I think you guys get the general idea of it. So I won't make you watch me do this. And then I'll come back in, I'll just show you the blue, like lining all the blue pieces up and then lining all the gold. And then I'm gonna show you what it looks like when it's all finished. So my camera decided that it wasn't going to record anymore, so I apologize, but it's all the same idea of just lining up your pieces onto that big black piece. It's like making a puzzle. Now, is this perfect? It's not. And that's okay. It doesn't have to be, but that upside down piece is bugging me to death, and I'm sure it's upside down. Or maybe it just cut at a weird size because Cricut will do that sometimes, but I'm gonna go ahead and flip it. But I just made this with some cardstock that I got at Michael's, which I'll link down below for you. It's a pretty inexpensive and easy to do project, and you can do this with any design that you want to, any character, and I'll link some videos of other larger than matte projects that I've done down below. I absolutely love the gold touches. I think they're really fun. They're super sparkly, and they just add that little bit of depth to the image so that you're able to just get a little extra pizzazz with it. And this could be used for all sorts of different things. And you could also always put this on like a thick poster board backing if you wanted to make it a little bit more stable. Now, if you have any questions, please let me know in those comments down below. I'm always happy to answer those. Be sure that you're subscribed here. That way you don't miss out on any of the fun, crafty content we have coming. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and as always, happy crafting.